Welcome to the KidMin podcast with Dr. Val and Dr. Virginia, where we talk about everything KidMin
and pull back the curtain on some of the surprises and challenges in children's ministry that nobody prepares you for.
I bet you were probably wondering why in the world we have decided to start this program. But honestly, we have decided that by choice, we are out of work children's ministers. And and we're just in a season of our lives right now where we are not vocationally serving in churches, but we really just wanted to be able to serve God by sharing the things that we have learned over the years.
Yeah, amen. Just knowing that that I just feel like I've been so blessed to have so many different opportunities for experiences and for training and for mentoring, just being mentored by other people and knowing that not everyone has those opportunities and wanting to share that, and just like what you said, help other people who either feel called into children's ministry, or maybe it's something that was just sort of plopped onto their laps and they find themselves, yes, all of a sudden running this thing and saying like, how do I do this? What do I do? Oh no. So
we have these divine appointments in our lives sometimes. And I've talked to so many children's ministers over the years that literally have just kind of said, this is not what I intended to do. But this pastor said this, or this church member said this, or we were desperate, or I kind of just ended up here. And so, which is wonderful because I believe that God gives us these opportunities to serve him. And sometimes we just need that little extra help to learn a little bit more about what we're doing. And so that was what I think we were kind of hoping was, so that for those of you who maybe have been thrown in the deep end and don't quite know what you're doing, we've been there and we know how that feels. And so we just wanted to have an opportunity to share some of the things that we've learned in our experience. So you may wonder how Virginia and I met.
Yeah.
Virginia, do you want to tell?
Yeah. 10 years ago. I know we were talking about this not that long ago, how we can't believe it's been 10 years. Wow. We met in a Doctor of Education program, our doctoral program at Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary. Spring of 2012 cohort, SP12, a fine and noble cohort. So 10 years ago at seminary is where we first met. And I was so excited and glad that there was like another children's ministry person in our cohort. I was like, oh yes, like there's another person like me in this cohort.
Virginia was a blessing for me because it had been a few years since I had been in school when I started the doctoral program. And so it was just definitely God placed us together in this program so that we could support one another and encourage one another, because it in a room full of ministers, children's ministers kind of had to stick together and be able to do what we could do, because we were both writing our dissertations on children's ministry subjects, which is also unique and not simple. And so it was nice to have somebody to kind of, bounce ideas off of and to have that support. So that was very important.
Yes,
for sure.
Amen. Divine appointment.
Well, Virginia, why don't you start and just share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am originally from Arkansas. I ended up going through like all my schooling all at once. Anyway, let's go back. Let me tell my testimony first. My grandma took me to church with her whenever I was a kid, and I accepted Christ at Vacation Bible School whenever I was 9 years old. Yeah, so VBS is super near and dear to my heart. I felt called into ministry as a college student and went to seminary after that, got my master's degree, went straight into my doctorate. Definitely did not plan on any of that, because even whenever I was in my master's degree thinking about going and getting a doctorate, I'm like, that's crazy. Like real people don't do that. Normal people don't do that.
Normal people don't do that. That's it.
But definitely God was at work in all of that. I am married to my husband, Matt, and we have boy-girl twins who are getting ready to turn 2 in just a little over a week. So probably by the time this airs, they'll already be 2. Yeah. So they
exciting though. Twins,
yeah.
This is so much fun.
Yeah. We went to they had yes, they had water day at their preschool today. And so I actually, right before this, came from water day where it was also raining. So,
wow.
So it was very wet. It was my water day too, even though I didn't really plan on it being that.
But I bet they are having a blast with it. They love water.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, my husband and I, my husband Lewis and I, we live in Tennessee. I was born and raised in Tennessee. And I actually, my mom took me to church, dropped me off at the front doors every time the little local church that was down the street from our house was open. So I lived at our church all the time, and feel so blessed that I have that biblical background, and I had adults that poured into me the love of the Word of God and the love of God. And so it was such a blessing. But it was actually, I was 17 before I really realized that it was a commitment to Jesus Christ, that was where salvation was from. I was kind of growing up as a works kind of focused person trying to be perfect. And so it took me until about 17 before I realized it was through Jesus. And so I accepted Christ then. And I went to UT Knoxville for my undergraduate and elementary education. My plan was to be a teacher in a classroom my entire life, and started teaching in the classroom. And it wasn't too many years before I started kind of finding myself in administrative duties. And so I started working on my master's in administration and supervision from TSU. And so I graduated with my master's and became a principal for a few years. And so I served as a principal. And through all of those years as serving in Christian education, I also served as a volunteer children's minister in our church. So serving in children's ministry all those years in a volunteer position until at one point I just really felt like the Lord was saying, children's ministry vocationally is where you're supposed to be. And so I transitioned fully into serving our churches through being a children's minister. And so the reason why I am currently an out of work children's minister is because we moved back to our hometown a couple of years ago to help with my mom. She is 91 and she has been struggling with her health. And so we bought a house here in town where she could move in with us and we could sort of help take care of her over these years. So I just felt like God wasn't really calling me to find a church to serve in. I've just been volunteering since we've been back in our hometown. And so that's where we sort of are in our lives right now. So
yeah,
it's been exciting, but it's been a big change for me because 28 years I've served vocationally in Christian education or children's ministry. And so it's been a big change.
Yeah. And, anytime I describe you to other people, I'm always like, if it has anything to do with educating children, like Valerie has done it. Like she's been a teacher, she's been a principal, she's been a children's minister, like she's been a children's ministry consultant. So it's like, she's done a little bit of everything with kids.
I'm writing curriculum now, which is
yes,
great. I've done it sporadically over the years, but it's pretty much that's what I've been doing since we moved back home, is to write children's material. So it's been interesting to be that freelance writer as well as kind of a new moniker that I've taken on. And I'm like, I'm not sure what I'm doing exactly. But I do love every minute of it because, again, I get that opportunity to pour into children's ministries and to pour into children's leaders.
Right.
That's always been my favorite thing to do is to teach a teacher. I love teaching teachers more effective ways to teach, more effective ways to be creative in the classroom, whether it's in an educational setting like a school or whether it's in a biblical educational setting like a church. And so that's really where my heart is. I love to teach. It's just
you're speaking my heart song. Because that's the exact same, because that's one of the things I talk about. Because as a children's minister, my absolute favorite part of my job, you're right, was teaching teachers how to teach the Bible effectively. And so that was absolutely, that's my favorite thing as well. And I currently am volunteering as well. I didn't say that earlier, but I thought, oh, maybe I should say that. Like, even though I'm an out of work children's minister, I am, yeah, I am still serving and volunteering. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, and I think that it's just part of who we are. I'm actually currently in this season, the last few months, I haven't been able to serve in a volunteer position as much as I would have liked, just because of the pandemic and because of taking care of mom. And so I'm hoping that as we sort of get settled a little bit more and things have calmed down a little bit, with that, I'll be able to be back involved in my church a little bit more, as a volunteer, because like I said, it's just sort of, I think when you serve in children's ministry, I think when you have that desire to teach, it's a desire God places on your heart, and it's hard to leave it. Like you
Right.
just, it's hard to let it go, because you just really love being with the kids and with other teachers and finding ways where you can serve and help. And so I don't feel like that God's closed any doors for me right now. I feel like he's just given me different opportunities for serving him in the season that I'm in right now. And so that's why I think I was so excited about us, kind of taking this venture together, of sharing some of the things that we've learned over the years, and hopefully being a help to people who are going to be listening. And so, what kind of things do you think that we're going to be chatting about during our time together?
All kinds of things, all kinds of children's ministry things. I mean, one of the big things that we talked about that is the top of both of our lists is safety and security. The things that we need to put in place, the policies, the procedures that we need to put in place to protect our kids and protect our ministries, protect our churches. Just because that can be, I think it can feel overwhelming, especially first walking in, you're like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? But really you can break it down into, separate parts and things you can implement. Like, okay, like I can do A, B, and C, like I can implement these things. And so trying to take something that can be, I think, one of the most intimidating parts of children's ministry and demystify it, to use a word that we heard in our doctoral program a lot, demystify it, show that there are separate steps that you can do and actions that you can take that a lot of times are pretty simple. It's just doing it and getting people on board.
Yeah, and I think that that's the thing. There's so many facets to children's ministry, and there's so much that needs to be done. And I think that what happens too is that we become, finding volunteers becomes a huge portion of our time and our stress and where we focus. And when we start to do that, to kind of focus on that one area, we get a little overwhelmed. And sometimes it's easier to let some of the other areas slide because we're just trying to find that time. And so hopefully through just some time with us, that we can kind of share some ways that we figured out how to focus on those other things, as well as finding volunteers and scheduling and all of those things that sort of take up that important chunk of your day, to find ways to more effectively do the other things that are really needed, that are going to help you in the long run be able to have a more effective ministry. And so it's just a matter of sort of thinking through. And sometimes it's really funny. I would go to a conference or I would go to an event and I would hear somebody speak on a topic and I was like, oh, I never thought of that. Like, even after serving for as many years as I have, I would hear that and go, oh, wait, why did I not ever think, why I just never thought about that, or I never really focused on that, or I never really took the time to do that. And so I think hopefully we'll be able to give some people some suggestions on those kinds of things.
Right. Yeah.
So, there's just so much to do, and so little time when you're a children's minister, because of just, we find that the urgent tends to take over the important. And so I think it's being able to figure that out. So
I was just thinking, that's where my brain was just going as well, is as a leader, learning how to prioritize and learning how to manage your time, learning how to, like you said, not let the urgent, not let tyranny of the urgent take over,
Right.
but being strategic with your time and your energy, and all of that. I'm reading a lot about that right now and listening a lot to Carey Nieuwhof, which he's
Mhm.
not paying me to say this. He doesn't even know I exist. But that's something that I'm really reading a lot and digesting a lot right now, just personally. Is how to use your time. I'm reading his book At Your Best, and how to use your time and how to be at your best. So I think that's, just in the vein that you're going in as well. An important part of being a leader is learning how to prioritize, using your time well. Because you're right, there's never seems like there's enough of it, and so
There's never enough of it. There's
yeah,
never enough
yeah,
time to do everything. And
right,
but also
right,
the thing that I find interesting, and I think I learned this through dissertation writing probably more than anything else, was that sometimes we build up activities in our mind to be bigger
mm,
than they actually are.
right,
And so, if I tried to think about my dissertation in one big chunk, like if I tried to think about writing a dissertation and defending, it seemed incredibly overwhelming
impossible.
and impossible. And I don't know how
Yep,
I'm ever going to get this done or ever be able to do this. And then it would actually even make me freeze sometimes in not being able to work on it because I was so overwhelmed at the vastness of it.
right,
But then I started realizing that if I just take it one small chunk at a time, one page at a time, just sit and write for an hour, just sit and,
right,
research for an hour, just sit, just and do these little, they begin to add up and it
right,
helps. And I think it's the same way for children's ministers. I think we can get so overwhelmed with a large number of things that we can do that it becomes so overwhelming that we don't do a lot of things because we think, oh,
right,
what, there's no time to do that. And there are some things like safety and security, like training volunteers, those
right,
kinds of things that seem so daunting when you think about it. If you just look at it in smaller chunks, it's not quite so overwhelming. And so
right.
hopefully we'll be able to give you some suggestions on those things, and not just those big heavy things either. I think that we're going to hit some of the more fun aspects of the things that we do in children's ministry and look at things like, BBS and curriculum and just all of those things um, that make up children's ministry as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking forward to, talking about, education tips and classroom management and, teaching diverse learners. And so going into, like what you said, stuff that for us at least is fun, and how you train volunteers and doing all those things. And
Right,
so, yeah.
right. So hopefully we'll be able to encourage you in that way. Um, I would love to be able to say exactly where you can find this right now and all of the things that we have planned, but I will give you a little peek behind the curtain of we are still figuring all this out. And
Yeah.
so we are hopefully going to be able to get feedback from those of you who are listening on things that you want to hear about, things that you would love for us to discuss, things that you would love for us to share with you about. Um, and how we can be more helpful to you. So we definitely want to do all of that. So we're going to get all of that information out to you over, the time that we spend together and let you know sort of how you can contact us and what you can expect and all. We're just sort of um, doing this like we just talked about with children's ministry, one day at a time.
That's right.
One
That's
step at a
right.
time.
That's right. You eat the elephant one bite at a time. That's what we're doing.
Yes, that's what we're doing. We are definitely doing that. Well, Virginia, do you have anything else you want to share just in the introduction?
I don't think so. Just that I'm excited for us to do this and grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, I
So,
am too.
yeah.
I'm really, really looking forward to it too. We are, like Virginia said, this will be coming out soon, and we have our very first actual official episode will come out, and we're going to discuss something that we both really, really love. And we thought we couldn't think of a more fun way to kick off what we're doing than to talk about Vacation Bible School.
Yeah.
So we are going to talk about the things we love about Vacation Bible School and hopefully give you a few hints and tips and things that you can do as you prep for this summer. I know most of you have probably already been working on this since January, But we thought that we would just kind of talk a little bit about the things that we love. And so that will be the first episode that you will see us post.